What makes customers place one product that they find on the shelf in a supermarket? What makes them place it in the cart and then maybe sometimes remove something from the cart and put it back on the shelf? In the eyes of the customer, the product that made it in the cart likely offers a higher perceived value than the one left behind. Perceived value. Perceived value is the value, no other way to put it, but it's the value you perceive. Now, every step of a business's operations contributes to a value that the products offer to the customers. Ideally, the value is defined, therefore, by the recipient, by the client. So, successful businesses create value with each transaction for their customers in the form of satisfaction, and for themselves and their shareholders in form of profit. As a sidebar, there is value creation and value delivery. And anything that happens in between there should make sure that as much value that was created is value delivered. You could create value and fail to find a way to deliver it. In which case, we are going to help define that. You could make a cup of tea, for instance, right now, and it's so cold. So you make a cup of tea and it's hot. That's value created. But by the time you deliver it to Timothy, it's cold. And so the value created and the value delivered, the value has been lost in between. So to help explain that, let's differentiate between two terms: value chain and supply chain. The term value chain refers to the processes in which businesses receive raw materials, add value to them through production, manufacturing, and other processes to create a finished product, and then sell the finished product to their customers or consumers. So right from the beginning, when you manufacture to the time you deliver a product, whatever goes through there is the value chain. A supply chain represents the steps it takes to get the product or service to the customer. While a supply chain involves all parties in fulfilling a customer's request and leading to customer satisfaction, a value chain is a set of interrelated activities a company uses to create a competitive advantage. So the value chain will create a competitive advantage, while a supply chain will create a customer satisfaction. That means that the value chain helps you stand out within your industry, while the supply chain helps you apply the advantage that you have to your customer and to your client. So what are the takeaways? The takeaways are that the value chain is a process in which a company adds value to its raw materials to produce an end product, which is sold to the customers. A supply chain represents all the steps required to get the product to the customer. And I would say in the same, when it's integral value is still intact, or as much of it is still intact. So the value chain gives companies a competitive advantage in the industry, while a supply chain leads to overall customer satisfaction. I hope now those two are clear. So let's talk about the value chain, which is the gist of our discussion this morning. Companies that create greater value with each sale are better positioned to profit than, of course, those that produce less value. Now, to evaluate how much value a company is creating, we have to look at the value chain. Let me share with you my screen to show you a value chain. Share screen. So confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can. Wonderful. I forgot to share with you a quotation on value chains. Wars are actually fought. The one who has a better supply chain wins the war. The war between Israel, Ukraine, whatever, Gaza, is really a supply chain thing. Whoever is able to supply enough bullets and ammunition in time finishes the other person. That is why in time of war, the first thing that is blocked a supply chain. So once you block the supply chain, then any other thing is possible. Even those guys who had in the olden times, they had to lock those gates. So I'm going to explain each one of these. There are two primary functions. There are two functions really, largely. They are what they are called primary functions, and they are what is called secondary functions. Now, or supporting activities, supportive activities. In the primary activities, that means that those are the things that are directly linked to the production of that value within the value chain. So let's look at this. If you see my cursor, on your left, you have inbound logistics. Now, that has to do everything with receiving, storing, and distributing, like you have seen in the picture. Then you have operations. Operations has to do everything with how you turn that raw material into a finished product. Outbound logistics, how do you get the product to the end user at the end of the day? When you talk about marketing and sales, how do you create awareness and how do you educate the client about the use and benefits of your product? Services has to do with after sales services and how do you keep that relationship until they come back. Now, of course, the end product here is profit or margin. So if you move from the left to the right, those are the primary activities of the company. The supporting activities are right on top here. The support activities are technology, procurement, human resource management, and the infrastructure of the business. Where is the problem? And where is the gist of this lesson? The gist of this lesson, if you've been dozing up to now, wake up. So this model was proposed by Michael Porter. But the challenges we have in our businesses is exactly this. So I've said that the supporting activities or the secondary activities are the ones on top, and the primary activities are the ones at the bottom. So the brokenness in your business and why your business is unable to maximize value is this, that you have inbound logistics, for instance, here, and then you have human resource come next. And so the order is completely jumbled up. And instead, you have outbound logistics here come up here as a supporting activity. It becomes very, very hard. So you then pull technology down here. And the movement from left to right becomes a very, very difficult journey. No wonder at the end of the day, little or no value is created at the end of the day. Because when I order for my cup of tea or for my omelette, you have to consult HR, who is exactly supposed to do that, or you have to then turn into technology, what is supposed to happen when a customer asks for an omelette without cheese, or if I want that kind of thing. So the order is completely disorganized and misaligned. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. Harold, do you?
Yes, I do.
So, yes, we do.
The order is supposed to be from inbound logistics to operations to outbound logistics, marketing and sales, services, then profit. Those are primary activities. secondary or supporting activities. In other words, whatever is not involved in creation of value is a supporting activity, and it's not a primary activity. Now, in our organizational chart, sometimes we get the supporting activities and make them as if they are the primary activities, and hence the challenges that we actually have in our businesses. Okay, so let me first stop share here, then I'll share another slide sooner than later. So this idea was proposed by a gentleman, like I've told you, Michael Porter. Michael Porter is the one who came up with the five forces and the idea of competitive advantage and value creation. What we need to do is profits are within the value chain. Maybe something I remember. Let me go back to my screen. Profits are within the value chain, and how you handle and how you massage the value chain really matters. And this is what I'm explaining. Profit is right here, sandwiched between inbound logistics and operations, and how you manage that interface there really matters whether you'll be profitable or not. Profit is how you manage the operations between that interface between operations and outbound logistics. Profit is between outbound logistics and marketing. How you manage that wall there really will determine how profitable you are, and how you manage between.
Director, I'm sorry, you've grown really faint. You've grown really faint the past few minutes.
Hey. Yeah,
Okay,
I pushed my head. Sorry, I pushed my head closer to the screen. I was passionate about profit. Sorry.
That's much better.
I was moved to the screen to explain that, look, the profit is here. I was like, see it leaking away. The problem is you bring in stock or you bring in your raw material and you take a lot of time to process it. Even the people who are processing are not sure what they should be processing. So your value chain gets broken, and the delivery of value at the end of the day is broken. But we'll look at the remedy of this thing. So what we do, like I told you, is split between the primary and secondary activities, which is okay. And how can we then help correct this? I have another slide which I'm going to share right now that will help explain how you correct the errors within the supply chain, or no, the value chain. And where's my slide? Okay, can you see anything?
Not yet, David.
I was waiting for the liars to say yes, we are seeing something. When I haven't shared it and you already see.
Can see
you. Okay. Now, what is value chain analysis? Value chain analysis is really doing that which we have explained. Looking at the interface between inbound logistics and operations. How can we measure that, and how can we extract a lot of value out of there? And how can we put in place measurements? So according to Michael Porter, this is what he proposes, that these are 3 steps to value chain analysis. Number 1, identify the value chain activities. Really break down the way your business makes value and creates value and delivers value. That means list all the primary activities, list all the secondary activities that go into creating the value for the client. And be honest, not that which you want, but the way it is right now. You might have jumbled all these, the primary and the secondary and whichever steps there are, and you have them backwards. It's okay. Then each of these activities has a cost attached to it. See that you align on when you bring the egg, maybe it's at 500 shillings an egg. How much is an egg? I don't know. I'm not sure. But if the egg is 500 shillings, then how does it turn into an omelette? And what's the cost of turning that egg into an omelette? What's the cost of the ingredients that go into the egg? Then the cost of preserving it at that temperature and integrity until you serve it to me. So at each stage of the value chain, there are values and there are components that you're dealing with. Then identify the competitive advantages and opportunities that you actually have within there. Realize that you have a food maker that actually makes all these things very possible and very easy. How else do you wonder that you go to CJ's, for instance, and in about 8 minutes, the one who ordered chicken, the one who ordered fish, the one who ordered whatever else is there. All of you get your meals at the same time. Yet, it's not possible that my mother can prepare all those meals at the same time. She starts at 6 a.m. and you get lunch at 4 p.m. So identify the competitive advantage that these guys have a food maker that makes all this whole thing very easy. In terms of the value chain that they actually create within CJs. So having identified that, then analyze where you need to squeeze out and you make profit. Let me tell you, you've heard it said that profit is in the buying. Profit is not made when you sell. Profit is made when you actually purchase. And this is the whole thing. How you purchase, how you map out your value chain from the time you get your primary, your inputs to the time you deliver the product or the service to the customer. Now, you may ask a question, does this also work in the service industry? What you've explained seems to be working in the product industry. It works the same way. You have how you process your input. What are your input? People, knowledge, how you process it, package it into slides or material pamphlets, how you then deliver it online, offline, in person, whatever. Sales and marketing, how are you going to make sure people are aware of that? And what else, what other service do you offer? And make sure that beyond sales and marketing, what service do you offer in terms of maintaining, keeping, and nourishing the customer? That way, you have your value chain, even if it's a service industry, very well mapped out. And what are the supporting activities that really support the delivery of your service to your customer? Make sure you map them out correctly and make sure that they are aligned and make sense. Remove any bottlenecks that are in between there, and then you'll have a value chain that actually makes you money. Chairman, I want to end here and entertain some questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Director. I'd like to open up the floor for questions. You can raise your hand on the chat option, or you can use the chat option, or you can raise your hand. And as we're waiting for questions, Director, I'd like to refer to a statement you earlier said, where you said that the value chain is with the competitive advantage and supplier chain is with customer satisfaction. Can customer satisfaction be a form of competitive advantage in a way? What if I cannot add the costs from each stage, like you've said? Can't I use my delivery tool as a way of making sure I stand out?
That's a very good question. And Michael Porter talks about two things. When you look at the 5 forces, now you're going to draw me into some other thing. The 5 forces, the rivalry within the industry really is one of the Porter's 5 forces. So that's where the value chain comes in to fight one of those Potter's five forces, because you have to know within your industry, for instance, Sydney, you are into training. Within your industry, are you number one, number two, number three? And it is better to analyze the competitiveness within the industry at that level. Then we say, okay, having competed there, then how do we make sure that we deliver what we have competed upon to the customer, so that the two are in sync? In this case, the customer satisfaction is a measure within the company of how fast and how integral the delivery of your value to the customer is. But the competitive advantage helps you remain up there. For instance, we have two telecoms, MTN and Airtel. The industry rivalry is between those two. It's so much that the entry of a third one is very, very difficult. Now, whether you think Airtel is number one, MTN is number one, now that is for them to fight it out. Once they realize that, that is why among themselves, when one says we have introduced 5G, another one will come and counter that, so that the rivalry within the industry remains tight and competitive, but they are all fighting for the number one spot. Now, in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of supply chain, this is where yourself will say, even if Telecom X says we are the number one, I cannot play a YouTube video on my phone. So the customer satisfaction is down. And in that case, the supply chain should actually work to make sure that what you bought as 5GB is delivered on your phone as 5GB, and the utility value of the 5GB is actually enjoyed by you. You're able to play someone, you're able to play video, you're able to watch whatever you need to watch up to the end, and the data is going according to your expectation. If 5GB games in 2 minutes, then the customer satisfaction has gone lower, and it is their job to make sure that the customers are get as much of the value created as much as possible and in its integral nature. That would be the difference. They are two separate, and it is better to analyze them as separateness. If you have not understood, I can give you another example.
I think I've understood. Thank you so much for that. Though a second example won't hurt, but let me just give you these two questions so that you can share my time. You can give us the second example. There's a question from on the chat where Dora is saying, I thought procurement was primary, the sourcing of raw materials. And okay, then there's another from Investor Jonan who said, what would be your take on outsourcing support functions to match the primary? So if you can help us answer that, then if possible, give us the example, and then you can close us off directly.
When you realize that there is, Jonan, I like your question. I should have explained it, but I skipped it. When you realize that between inbound logistics and operations, when you're doing the analysis, that you do not have advantage to offer, to extract as much value as possible, you outsource that step. That is why we think that I don't have a good car to go to Mombasa to get petroleum to Naria. So what I do, I outsource it to Shell to do it for me. And so within my value chain, I see there are a set of activities that other people can play better than I, and I completely outsource those. Now, you can decide to outsource this primary activities or the secondary activities, whichever you want. It is up to you and the skill set and advantage you bring to the market. The main thing is step number 3 here. When we talk about value chain analysis, step number 3, identify competitive advantage. That means identify what takes you little effort but gives you a lot of advantage in the market. How can I put it? If you don't have good legs, don't put on a mini skirt. You don't have a competitive advantage there. If your mama gave you a good smile, then that is your competitive advantage. That's where you should excel and smile more often than not. If you're brainy and you like reading, then go ahead and read and be brainy, so that when we look and you're ugly but brainy, yeah, then we say, oh, the competitive advantage you bring to the market is you're a brainy person. So the problem is that we do not identify our competitive advantage and we do not maximize the competitiveness, that the competitive advantage that we actually bring to the market. Whatever your competitive advantage you have, that's the one where you should get 10x return. And the process of identifying it is really solely upon the shoulders of you, the entrepreneur. If your value chain, now I've forgotten this one. If your value chain exactly resembles the one of your competitors, then you do not have a competitive advantage. If the value chain you have exactly resembles the one of your competitor, then you do not have a competitive advantage. So our role is to identify how we map out the value chain, how we squeeze value out of the value chain, and identify how to measure those steps, and therefore create our competitive advantage that makes us really stand out in the market. I was going to say that when CD asked about competitive advantage and customer satisfaction, it is this. Let me use someone called Gloria. Okay, so let us say that you have a marriage fellowship at church. Then they say, Gloria has the best marriage in this church. So in this case, Gloria has a competitive advantage within the church. We say, I wish everyone was like Gloria. But now at home, she has a customer satisfaction, whether her husband is a satisfied client. Now that is where the customer satisfaction comes in. We may be praising you in church with your competitive advantage, but when the customer is not satisfied. But you might also have a satisfied customer at home, and then in church you have no competitive advantage. Yeah, ideally we should align such that the satisfied customer the satisfied customer translates into a competitive advantage. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your ears and for your time. We honor you. And despite the rain, and actually I would say because of the rain, may your competitive advantage be shown and may you prosper. Because I have prospered even in drought. So in this case, may you prosper because of the rain and may you make money. Hard, cold cash. I hate the term retained earnings. I like the term bank balance. May your retained earnings be your bank balance. Go and make money. Have a lovely day. Catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye-bye. Peace.